What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Ryan Kai Show. I am your host, Ryan, here with my co-host, Kyle. And today, the topic of discussion, Kawhi Leonard to the Raptors and DeMar DeRozen to the San Antonio Spurs. We're going to talk about it today. Kyle, initial thoughts on the trade.
Well, we were talking about this a lot yesterday when it was still a hypothetical, and now that it's reality, I feel like I'm not as excited as I should be.
There's a great disturbance in the force.
There's a great disturbance. That's great. No, it's true. It's like, I don't know. I liked Kawhi Leonard staying with this. I was hoping him and Pop were going to work it out.
Happen.
I know it wasn't, but I was hoping somehow they work it out, at least for the end of the year, and then, if I'm Kawhi Leonard, this sucks because I wanted to stay with the Spurs. If I'm him, I would have wanted to stay with the Spurs until I got re-signed and then still demand a trade and try to get signed and traded at the new high max.
But why would you, if you're Kawhi, why would you want to be a part of, I think the Lakers were thinking, why do we have to give up anything to get Kawhi if he'll just walk to us in a year? And if you're Kawhi, why would you want to go to a team that got stripped because they traded for you? That's the same thing that LeBron always did with his teams, so why he wouldn't tell them where he's going, because he liked to go to a team that already had all the pieces intact instead of them trading.
Right. And that's a fair assessment. My counter argument to that would be that, that's what the Lakers thought last year with Paul George, too. Why go try to trade away a bunch of assets to get Paul George when he's just going to walk to us in 2018?
I think it's the biggest fear they have, but the difference is when Kawhi, when Paul George was leaving Indiana, he's like, oh, I want to go to LA when I'm a free agent. I want to be in LA. And it's like, okay, same thing with Kawhi, correct. But when he got to Oklahoma City, he was excited. Paul George, the initial impression of hearing about his trade going to Oklahoma City, he's like, I'm excited to play with Westbrook. I'm excited to be in the organization. It's a good organization. He got a lot of support from Kevin Durant, who told him it was a great organization. The fans really embraced him. Kawhi's initial, it's like, Kawhi, your initial reaction on your trade to the Toronto Raptors, I don't want to be here. I didn't like this trade. Both him and DeMar DeRozan were both disgruntled about their new situations.
And that's a fair assessment of it. The thing is that there's so many question marks. Kawhi's
Who knows if he's even healthy?
Well, that's true. But where I'm going with this is Kawhi's train of thought is so clouded, and it's so hard to predict what Kawhi is actually thinking because there's so much shadowy stuff going on around his camp and everything. And so for me, it's like he may be saying that he doesn't want to be there in Toronto, and that may be how he actually feels. It could easily change. He could get there, and that could change very quickly. Also, I think Kawhi would have said that no matter where he got traded. I think he's not happy right now the way the news that's come out of that camp and the way that he has acted in this free agency. I don't think he was going to be happy no matter what unless he was in LA. I don't think anyway. If he would have gone to the Celtics, anywhere, I think he would have been unhappy.
Can I make a point about his camp real quick? So Kawhi doesn't have an agent right now.
Right.
He's representing himself, and his uncle is also
allegedly.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So what that tells me is do you know how much NBA players give their agents? A lot of money, huge percent of everything they make. So if you think about it, the whole contract thing with the Spurs doesn't really affect him as much as people think, because it's he's making a lot. I mean, he would have made more if he would have signed the contract, obviously. But he's making a huge percent that most players don't make because he's not paying an agent any ridiculous sum. Now he's probably paying his family, or his uncle, or his representatives, but not that much, not an agent number.
Yeah, but he also doesn't have an agent who can argue on behalf of him. An agent might have helped him negotiate with San Antonio a better trade option, a trade to a place that he would have wanted to go more.
Maybe, but I think for him, what he's the best representation he can have for himself is to play good next year and just get that max from the max offer that LA can get him in free agency next year.
That's fair. To me,
there's no way Kawhi if he's healthy. There's no way he doesn't get a max, even if he stays with Toronto or if he goes to LA.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Kawhi, I think there's no situation in my mind where these players aren't better off by getting an agent. I think it's worth the money that they pay these guys.
That's why they have agents.
Yeah, they do a lot of work for you. I mean, look at LeBron and why he's so loyal to Rich Paul is because he does a lot for him.
Yeah, since Miami.
Yeah, he does a lot for the agents do a lot of work, a lot of the legwork in getting these contracts done,
information,
and a lot of the details. You know, if Kawhi would have re-signed an extension, like for example, without an agent, he may have missed something in the legal details of the contract, and he may have skipped over something that would have gotten him less money, or something that would have been dangerous to him in the contract.
That's true, but at the same time, just because you have an agent doesn't mean you always get the best deal. Look what happened with Paul George. His agent screwed him this year by giving him a 4-year deal, which makes no sense because if he does a 3-year deal, and then if he does a 3-year deal, then the next contract will get a huge cap boost.
Yeah.
He'll get a lot more money in the next contract. Or if he does a 5-year deal, he gets more money per year and he gets a longer contract.
Right.
So the 4-year deal just doesn't make any sense. Everyone said it was like him gift wrapping the Oklahoma City Thunder a discount year. That makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean, that one's a tough one to pan out.
Or it's a 3-year with the player option in the 4 years, I believe what it is.
That one's a tough one to pan out. I mean, he could always decline his player option and then go for market value. And
the whole idea is if he would have signed 2 years and then a 3rd year player option, if he would have opted out of the 3rd year, then after the 2 years he would have gotten a humongous amount of a cap boost.
Okay.
Whereas if he would have and then if he would have done the 5 years, he would have maximized the money, and then had done 4 years and then a player option, he would have maximized the money for the contract per year. But by doing 4 years, doing 3 and then a player option. It literally gives the Oklahoma City Thunder a discount year. Like, he's getting less money on his 3rd year, and he's not maximizing the money per year that he would have gotten for a 5-year.
Yeah, and it's tough when we look at these contracts because all we see is the big numbers and the per years and all that stuff. We don't see the details of these contracts. We don't see all the little things that are in there because there's a lot of details that go into these contracts that we never see. The no trade clauses, the
tax. Kyle Anderson for the Grizzlies got a trade bonus. So he gets a 20% trade bonus.
Right.
If he's traded, he gets 20% bonus of his contract.
Yeah, and then there's bonuses for certain outputs, if you reach a certain number of points per game, if you get a certain number of rebounds, or, there's all these things that get wrapped into these contracts that we don't really see,
You see those. You see, like Paul George had, the Supermax. You have to qualify for a Supermax. Is you have to have been for a team for, I don't remember the exact number of years, but a number of years, and then you have to have made an All-Star game, Defensive Player of the Year, or NBA selection, or MVP selection. So, no, I think those are separate. I think you need either a Defensive Player of the Year, an MVP, or an All-Star appearance, and then an All-NBA team gives you a separate bonus. If you make an All-NBA team, you get a bonus there, too.
Right.
But just as far as the trade goes, if we're just looking at the brass tacks of what each team got in the trade, what do you think about that aspect of it? What do you think about DeMar DeRozan coming with the pick that is a 1 through 20 protected, and if they don't use it in the first year, it becomes a 2nd round pick, and then Pirtle also coming, who's a prospect big, who's only, I think, he's in his 3rd year in the league, still young, could be he's shown some good defensive shot blocking abilities, but I think he's still a project.
Right.
And they didn't get Anunoby, OG Anunoby, who is a good defender, who is a wing, who looked to be a really good young defensive wing, probably one of the better defenders out of that rookie class last year. That everyone thought they were going to try and attach them to the deal too.
Right.
But the Raptors got to keep him, which only enforces that defense that they now have with Danny Green and Kawhi Leonard coming.
Yeah, I completely trust the Spurs organization and their office, and I trust in Popovich. Popovich is, aside from being the head coach over there, he's also the guy that is basically your second scout for that team. He scouts players as much as their actual scouting team does.
He also has a huge...
Yeah, he has a large team around
him. I think he
him.
may be the president of basketball operations.
Right.
I think R.C. Buford handles all the financials and stuff like that. But I think he works with R.C. Buford to make the
do a lot of the basketball management stuff, right?
Stuff.
And that's my point, is that I trust Pop. If he picks a guy like Pirtle out of that trade, I think there's a reason for it. And a lot of these times we see the Spurs get these guys who are project players, and we don't really expect much of them. And then they prove us wrong by showing us that their player development is able to turn this player into someone who's a suitable role player or pretty advanced role player. And so I trust the fact that they went after him instead of, someone else in as the second one. As far as the whole trading star for star thing, which is pretty rare.
Yeah,
you don't see it very often.
For stars anymore. You usually don't get a star for star trade, but
right.
Yeah, it's yeah.
I mean, you're right. It's a downgrade. It's a downgrade, which is, there's no one who's gonna say that DeMar DeRozan is the equal of Kawhi Leonard.
Average more points per game in a season.
He may be a better scorer, but I think Kawhi's a better overall player. Now, there's questions about health, and there's questions
when healthy though. Kawhi is top 5 player in basketball.
There's questions of health. There's questions of what his mentality and his determination this season's gonna be, and all those things could lead to DeMar having a better overall season than Kawhi next year. There's lots of question marks. But as far as pure talent, when you're looking at like a trade sheet, there's no doubt to me that DeMar is a downgrade. But you get DeMar, I trust in the fact that they see something in Pirtle that they think they can develop. And they're good at using their picks to get something out of it. Whether it's a first round and they do the protected, or they end up getting it as a second round pick.
I think they at least could have gotten an unprotected first rounder. Or
I mean, you would think
like
you would think so. It tells me, and what the reports coming out now are saying, is that there wasn't that much out there as far as a market for the trade for Kawhi.
Well, yeah, I've been hearing some things about how Markelle Fultz had not been offered by Philadelphia, and the trade simmered down kind of. Yeah. The Lakers had refused to offer. They made Kuzma untouchable, and they refused to add Ingram in a deal, which kind of ties their hands together.
No Lonzo Ball, nothing valuable. I
think Lonzo was available, but I mean they didn't want to offer any high picks Ingram or Kuzma. It's
they made it sound like the Lakers didn't want to give up any of their young talent.
Yeah,
they were really basically willing to shuffle some
I
role
understand why
pieces
the Lakers
around.
Feel like they can retain the young talent. They don't have to give up a lot because he wants to go to LA.
Right.
But I would be very. I'm a little worried for the Lakers for their sake, and the fact that I would be very concerned if I were them. Like they're like, oh, not just from the Paul George perspective, like, oh, he could just decide to resign or he could go somewhere else. You don't know. It's a gamble. So they're making a gamble too. Kawhi says he wants to go to LA, but a year's a long time, and a year in a good organization can do some things. But,
a lot of things can change.
Yeah, but I don't think the Raptors are nearly the organization that the Thunder were, with Sam Presti at the top and the ownership at the bottom. I mean, top to bottom, they were just a solid organization with an MVP on the roster to make it easier. But if I'm the Lakers, I'm a little worried about our neighbors, the Clippers, with Jerry West sitting there, and then next year they're going to have the cap space to sign him. They have a lot of talent around that team. They can restructure. I mean, they got no LeBron James, but LeBron's only got a handful of good years left anyways.
Right. And we don't know that Kawhi really necessarily wants to play with LeBron 100%. Well, I mean, I'm sure he would like to play with LeBron, but we don't know for sure.
He said specifically initially that he wanted to play with the Lakers. And then there was that report, remember, that came out where it's like, oh, LeBron doesn't want to play with LeBron. A lot of people thought that was just someone in his camp who was trying to feed, was trying to get their opinion in. I don't think Kawhi. I think Kawhi would love playing with LeBron. I don't think that. I mean, who would not want to play with the best talent just because there's certain guys who want to be the number one option and want to be the guy, but I don't.
Right.
I think Kawhi would be fine being like the heir apparent to LeBron in the transition, and LeBron kind of passing the torch to him.
It's so hard to know because unlike most of the superstars that we see through free agency and trades, most of these guys are very vocal. Their camps are very vocal. They're easy to read. We kind of have a history. We know kind of how they think and what they're feeling. And so we can make kind of judgments on what we think they might do or might say or what they might prefer. It's really difficult with Kawhi because he's an enigma in a lot of ways. And so it's difficult because we don't know, does Kawhi really necessarily prefer LeBron? Or does he prefer to do things on his own? Or does he prefer something in between?
Maybe he doesn't want the spotlight of LA and he would prefer the spotlight of the Clippers, who don't have as much attention on them. They're not as big of a media.
Yeah, and I think he cares more about getting back to LA than he does necessarily getting to the Lakers over the Clippers. He may end up loving it in Toronto. I don't know how likely that is that he ends up loving it in Toronto, but he may. I mean, they're kind of an out-of-the-way, kind of less thought-of team.
Yeah, but it's a lot different. Wanting to play in the nice LA weather to playing in Toronto. It's a little bit different about the climate.
No, for sure.
But I don't quite know how DeRozan's going to like his situation now. I think he will like playing with Pop. I think that's a world-class organization, though. They need to kind of patch themselves up because they had a lot of criticism. They made a lot of poor organizational decisions with Kawhi. That was not a good situation for them. It looked bad for them. But he's going into a good organization with the best coach in basketball. He's going to be on the USA Olympic team, so I mean, he's going to be able to play with Pop before he gets the season started, so he'll get some exposure there. But I'm not so sure it's not as much I don't think he'll want to play in San Antonio. It's more that I don't think he really wanted to leave the Raptors. Like, he got told from Majiri that, I totally butchered that name, by the way. He was told from the GM that we're not going to trade you. We want you long term. We're not thinking about trading you. In Vegas with his representatives. A few days later, he's traded. That is a backhanded slap and disloyalty if I've ever seen it from an organization. We were having this discussion earlier. If I was GM, I would be honest. Even if it's going to hurt, at least you'd have someone... If someone's going to tell me some really bad news, I'd rather it be upfront and honest rather than telling me it's not going to happen, then I get sideswiped and all of a sudden I find myself in San Antonio instead of Toronto. So a big climate change for him. He's going to have to deal with that. And he was huge in Toronto. The leading scorer that franchise has ever seen. Probably the best player that franchise has ever seen.
Yeah.
And he was huge in the community. So that's a big change for him. And the fact that they didn't even honor him a little bit by giving him the respect of being straight with him is a little wrong in my mind, disrespectful.
Yeah, and we had this conversation earlier, like you were saying, and I understand why these organizations do it. They are trying to protect themselves because they figure if we tell DeMar DeRozan that he's not going to get traded, even though we're shopping him for Kawhi Leonard, let's say the trade doesn't work out and DeMar's here, then if he didn't know any better, he didn't know he was being shopped, then it doesn't hurt. But the minute he knows he's being shopped, if that trade doesn't work out and he's now on Toronto and he was like, so you guys were just trying to get rid of me and now I have to be here in this organization that didn't want me, that wanted to trade me off for someone? I think that creates some issues.
No, I don't think that causes as many issues as you think because it happens a lot to where players...
It happens a lot.
It happens a lot to players. And they end up staying. That happens a lot.
It happens a lot to players. It happens rarely to big players.
And usually it never causes issues. There was this big thing with Kemba Walker halfway through the season. Kemba Walker still says to this day he wants to be with Charlotte long term. Because these guys don't want to relocate every 5 minutes. Right. Especially when they're so integrated into the community. Like, DeMar DeRozan meant so much for that Toronto community.
Yeah.
Kemba Walker means so much for that Charlotte community. LeBron James meant so much for that Cleveland community that you don't want just to get rid of them. Yeah. You want them to stay there long term.
And you may be right that there's less actual threat of player disgruntlement than what the organization fears. I'm just saying I understand why the organization does it. They're fearful that they're going to upset DeRozan by shopping him if the trade doesn't work out. And so in their minds, it's better just to not say anything, keep their mouths shut, and shop. And then once things are done, they're done. I guess what you're saying is that instead of them keeping their mouths shut, you know.
Well, I would be honest, because even if it doesn't work, we'll just say, hey, it didn't work. I get you were kind of angry about us shopping you, but it happens. This is the basketball. You knew this was a possibility when you joined the league. We still love you, DeRozan. We don't love you any less. You're a great part of this community. We would continue to like you to be on this team. And it's like, you're part of this team. It's like, we're always trying to improve the roster, and if we're going to do what's best for our organization, and right now, you staying is what's best for our organization.
Yeah, I just don't know. It's difficult because I think the average player, that's fine. I think when you talk about some of these big players, a lot of these guys have, not necessarily saying it's a bad thing, but they have their egos and they have their pride. And so when you say, hey, we're shopping you, you may say that to them that, like, it's not that we love you any less, but if I'm that player and I have an ego and I have a pride and I think I'm one of the best players at my position, like DeRozan is, I'm going to be like, you obviously don't love me as much as you'd love Kawhi Leonard, so what the fuck's up with that?
Yeah, no. Well, I think that what ends up happening, the only time you really see the ego of the player really show up is when they're getting paid.
Yeah.
That's the only time I think you ever really see the ego show up. It's like when it's time to play basketball, they're all professionals, I feel like, most of the time. And honestly, the biggest egos always are about when they're getting paid. It's like, Jimmy Butler, I want to get paid. Egos. Like, it's not as much like, I don't think it's as, I'm like, look at just like the lesser players this year. Like Marcus Smart think he's worth a lot more than he actually is. And so he's getting all ego about it. Clint Capella, same thing. They want their money. It's like, that's different than I feel like. If DeMar DeRozan got traded and then it didn't work out, like it fell apart, I don't think you'd be like, great, I'm still in Toronto.
Yeah.
Even if they told him they were trading him, he'd probably like, I don't want to be traded. But if the deal fell apart, I think he'd be pretty happy to stay where he is.
Yeah.
I don't think ego plays that big of a role in it.
I don't know.
I will say, as far as looking at the teams moving forward, I'm very intrigued. I don't think it's going to last in Toronto. Sorry, Toronto, but they're one of the smaller market teams that just don't get they don't get a lot of free agents. They don't get a lot of big names. They have to draft, like, before Kawhi and DeRozan and Lowry, who were the guys? Vince Carter and T-Mac? And then before then, who was the guys?
Yeah, Chris Bosh in that era.
Yeah, Chris Bosh. Yeah, but they only get one every about 10 years.
They've had a fair number of stars when you actually look at them for the market that they have. They've actually done pretty well for themselves.
But they don't attract the talent, though. So you've got...
Yeah, but most teams in the NBA don't attract talent. When you're talking about that, there's so few... we get so caught up in these teams that do attract talent that we forget that 90% of the league doesn't attract talent.
Yeah.
That's just how it is.
Yeah, but aside from that, what I was talking about was that looking forward, I don't think the Kawhi thing will work out. But as of right now, looking at the season coming, I think they're going to be I think they're a much improved team. And sorry to DeMar DeRozan, but I think shaking up a little bit was the right decision. And I think having Lowry, now you got Danny Green coming, who's not even being talked about in this trade because it's all about Kawhi. But he is one of the best defenders at his position. He's a great defender, has been since he was playing with the Spurs that were on those championship teams. He is a great player who's able to defend and shoot threes and guard 1 and 2s really well, like guards. So I think he is a solid addition, and you put him alongside Lowry, who I think kind of shores up the defense of that number 2 position, and then you do... And Lowry's no scruff. He's a good defender. And then you have Leonard, who have come back healthy as a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. He's no joke. And then you have Ibaka, who is a leading in shot blocking a few years ago and is still a great defender. He can guard 4s and 5s and a little bit of the 3 and switch really well. And all those guys can switch. And then you got Valanciunas, who's not really a great defender, but not really a bad defender either. And I think there's still a lot of improvement on defense that team. They also have Van Vliet and Ananube, and I think they're just some great defensive pieces there.
Yeah. No, Toronto's. I think they're going to be a solid team this year. I think they're going to be a good defensive team. I think their offense isn't going to suffer too much.
Yeah, because
The East is so weak. They're making the playoffs.
Well, obviously, I think the bigger question is how far will they make it in the playoffs? I think because you got the Celtics. I think are still the best team as of today.
Yeah.
But I think they're a lot closer to Philadelphia than they were before this trade. I think they're probably better or about the same as Philadelphia chance of getting out of the East.
Yeah.
I mean, I think their odds are about the same as Philadelphia. Just things like, oh, they're the favorites to come out of the East now. I don't think that. I think Boston's still miles
It depends.
ahead,
There's a lot of questions because Boston, I think, on paper is by far the favorite to come out of the East. But that's just on paper. There's a lot of questions about Boston, the health of your stars, and them coming back.
True, but I mean,
and the fit, because Boston was playing really well with that unit that was there replacing the stars. So we don't know how well the stars coming back into that will play together.
When they were the best in the year, when Kyrie was leading that team offensively,
right? But we didn't get to see.
They did great with Rozier, but he is perfect.
Right. But my point is we didn't get to see a whole lot of time of Kyrie and Hayward and the rest of that unit the way that they played towards the end of the season. You know, you had Tatum really coming along as a player.
I think
and you don't know how much of that is going to get wrapped in and how much they're going to work that together because those roles will change a little bit.
I actually think that's a good thing that they I don't want to say this. It was a good thing that they had the injuries because Terry Rozier stepped it up a notch.
Yeah.
Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown stepped it up a notch. The lot of young players stepped it up because they got more playing time. That being said, I don't know how you can not say that Hayward not be a great fit. He was a great fit before the injury. He was a great fit after the injury because what Hayward is really great at is pick and rolls and screens and going off screens. He's one of the best players in forwards in the league at coming off screens and setting screens. And him alongside Horford, who again, him coming off screens is one of the best coming off screens in the league and like passing off screens and everything. Like, he's one of the best screen players in the league. Horford is probably one of the best big screen players in the league as well. So, and then you have Kyrie just messing with his ball handling and those two guys with how they run screens.
Right.
And then you put like Tatum and Jaylen Brown come in for stints. I mean, you could have a starting lineup next year of Kyrie Irving, Jaylen Brown, Gordon Hayward, Jason Tatum, and Al Horford. Or you could, instead of saying, well, maybe Jaylen Brown can come off and give us some offense off the bench, then you put Marcus Smart there at the 2.
Right.
That just seems like a really tough team to me. Like, able to defend, able to switch, able to score, able to just do everything. Pass, set screens, a good team with a great coach. I think they are going to be the favorite, even though Toronto made, I think, a step forward.
Right. And, yeah, I think... I wasn't saying that I don't think Hayward's a good fit in Boston. I'm just saying that there are a lot of questions about how much of this on-paper success will actually translate as far as how well the team actually plays when they're all together and all healthy.
I think Danny Ainge and Brad Stevens will bring this team together. And I think having an entire offseason to play with Hayward... I mean, Hayward's still recovering, Curry's still recovering, but you know they're going to get some time at training camp to play together. I think they'll be ready by training camp. They're going to have plenty of time to be together and to get better. I think there are just as many question marks with Toronto, though. What if Kawhi just doesn't come back healthy? What if he comes back and he just looks wrong? Yeah. Now, I don't think that will happen. I think Kawhi's going to come back fine. I think... he's going to be great for them.
I would be less concerned about Kawhi's health and more concerned about his mentality moving into next season if I'm Toronto.
Yeah.
That would be my biggest concern.
I will say this. I truly believe that, on a last note, I truly believe that Kawhi is a character guy and is a good guy and is going to be a great fit for the team, is going to be professional once he's in the situation. Because it's gonna make it hell for himself. Because they're not gonna trade him. They're not gonna do anything. It'll make it hell for your entire stint in Toronto if you just don't play or make it tough on all these guys. I think he'll give it. He's gonna be a tough playoff team that's gonna be competing for the East. I think he'll give it his all, and I think his on the court and off the court in the locker room, especially with his best friend Danny Green coming, will be a great fit for the Toronto Raptors moving forward. But it won't last, in my opinion.
Yep.
All right, guys, that's going to do it today for us. If you like this video, like and subscribe. You can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. If you want to check out any more of our content, make sure to watch our next video of The Ryan and Kai Show.